Hey everyone, it's Kong again, and here's another episode of Should You Summon. As always, I'm going to be presenting high-level overviews using these 4 criteria to help you decide whether this banner is worth your hard-earned vouchers and crystals, how these 2 new characters fit into your team, whether they unlock any bonds, what kind of content they get used for, and their future availability. So let's get right into this raid-up banner featuring 2 new characters, Mariel and the Light of Genesis. It's Jessica. From Langrisser Re Incarnation Tensei, running from February 11th to the 24th. Now, as always with these new character banners, since it's not a Destiny banner, you have a 40% chance of getting each on-banner character, with the remaining 20% reserved for the usual soul-crushing off-banner disappointments. So let's get started with Mariel. Mariel is a healer DPS combo with some interesting unique mechanics. At the start of a map, she starts in healing mode. This gives her plus 50% to all of her healing effects, and she takes 25% less damage, but she also deals half damage. The passive element of her 3C makes her automatically restore HP to the lowest 2 members of your team after each turn, so she starts the map as a fairly robust passive healer. Oh, and she uses attack as her healing stat, so you don't have to worry about trying to build her for both attack and int. Now, as soon as she initiates an attack, her healing mode switches off, so she no longer gets those passive bonuses and penalties. Instead, she gets a plus 3 mobility boost from her 3C passive, and she gets to act again. Her 3C attack, which is probably what you want to open with to trip this transition into a DPS unit, is a whole pile of effects. It does 1.8 times damage and strips 3 buffs, like a mini sword soul. It also pushes the target back 3 spaces, and if the attack was guarded, it does extra damage. It also gives you a buff for your next action, giving you plus 20% damage and making your attacks ignore guard. So thankfully, if you opened with this, then you now have your talents act again, which means you can make a mean guard-ignoring follow-up attack right away. She has a bunch of good skills too, but the main one worth mentioning is a 1-cost skill that helps her close ground. It removes 2 debuffs and heals her for 30%, and then it lets her move 2 more spaces before attacking. She's a member of Legion of Glory, buffed by Ledin, Elwyn, and Grenier, and Langrisser Reincarnation, buffed by Ares and the upcoming tank Hilda. For bonds, she doesn't unlock anyone else's bonds yet, and for her own bonds she needs Banner Mate Tiny Jessica for her defensive bond, and Rosalia, the Glory Cavalry unit, for her attack bond. If you don't have Rosalia and you're looking out for her next appearance, it'll be on a Valentine's raid-up banner with Werner, which coincidentally coincides with Mariel's comeback in July. For content, in PvE, she's on faction for Scylla and Hugin and Munin, and after the Hilda update in March, she'll be added to the factions for Sleipnir, when Langrisser Reincarnation gets added to that fight. But Mariel's more of a dynamic playmaker, not necessarily designed for sustained PvE boss fights. She could be a jobber in general story-type content, but she's definitely designed more for PvP. She has a kit that lets her swing the momentum of a match with that act again and big attacks. Her passive healing is whatever, it's a nice bonus effect while she's setting up to launch her 1-2 punch. For availability, as I already kind of hinted, she's coming back on another raid-up banner alongside Brenda in mid-July, so no Destiny banner in the foreseeable future, unfortunately. Her return does overlap with the Valentine's event banners too, so it might be just as busy a summoning window for some players. These Tensei characters do seem to be coming back into the regular rotation quite a bit though, so I'm sure she'll be back again as well. Now let's move on to the Light of Genesis. Like young Jessica, the Light of Genesis version of Jessica from Reincarnation Tensei is a long-range magical mortar. Unlike young Jessica, this version doesn't use a transformation skill to turn her into a turret. Instead, she gradually builds up stacks of int and range. Every time she enters battle or ends her turn, she gets 1 stack of her talent buff, and this is worth 5% int. For every 2 stacks, her range is increased by 1. This means you really want to get her to 6 stars since that'll let her reach plus 2 range, plus your Scepter of Divinity. Like Mariel, her 3C has some interesting playmaking potential. The active component is a single target magical attack that also heals your entire team, But the passive component lets her act again if she used an assist skill and ended her turn next to an ally. Usually this is paired with her teleport skill to help her get into the action more quickly. You can keep doing it too. Unlike Mariel's once per match act again, this one's simply on a 2-turn cooldown. So you can teleport next to a teammate and then act again, or you can move next to a teammate and teleport someone else away and then act again. As for the rest of her talent, she has increased damage dealt when entering battle to boost her single target effectiveness, and her skills cool down faster the more opponents she hits to boost her AoE effectiveness. A very versatile unit. She's a member of Legion of Glory, buffed by Lydon, Elwyn, and Grenier, Langrisser Reincarnation, buffed by Ares and the upcoming Hilda, and Origins of Light, buffed by Dehart, Jugler, and Freya. For bonds, she unlocks the defensive bond for her bannermate Mariel, and for her own bonds, she needs the original classic Free Jessica for her defensive bonds, and Young Jessica for her attack bond. You've got a couple chances to pick up Young Jessica if you don't have her already. She's coming on a Destiny banner in late March with Lambda and Gizaroff, and then on this Tensei Jessica's first comeback in July alongside Akka. For content, she's on faction for Scylla and Valkyrie in the Eternal Temple, and in Ancient Beckoning against Jormungandr, Hugin and Munin, and of course she'll be added to Sleipnir after the Hilda update in March. She should be useful against the Ice Dragon as well. Her range and her act again should also give her some cheese utility in a lot of general content if you can figure out sneaky ways to use her. Of course, like her bannermate Mariel, she's also designed to make plays in PvP. Probably this'll be the kind of play that sees her trading her life for that of a valued enemy target. For availability, she's coming back in late July on a Destiny banner with Young Jessica and Akka. So if you miss her here, or if you already have those 2 other characters, that's a perfect opportunity to get her without much hassle. The main downside of waiting, of course, mainly for PvP players, is that you miss out on using her this season. So weigh the pros and cons of that against your voucher supply. Okay, so here's the quick and dirty. We have Mariel, who's a unique healer and DPS playmaker. She has a dangerous act again, followed by guard ignoring attack, and she's best used in PvP. And we have the Light of Genesis, who's a versatile long-range magical DPS. She unlocks the defensive bond for Mariel, and she has a teleport and act again for good playmaking potential. I don't usually highly recommend summoning on 2-person raid-up banners, but if you play PvP and your box supports these factions and this playstyle, then you probably do want to draw at least one of these characters. It's hard to recommend going all in with Hilda peeking over the horizon, and knowing they're both coming back in July, they're not as universally recommendable as characters like Rosenseal or Hilda, but they're both solid units with unique mechanics, which always end up coming in handy in some way or another. Anytime a character like this comes out, it doesn't take too long for the community to find some sneaky way to put them to good use. Okay, now just the usual note about upcoming banners. We're only halfway through the early 2021 summoning bonanza right now. Next week is a Destiny banner featuring Ares, Maya, and Nomi, which is perfect for anyone who's missing any of those characters and wants to top up their Langrisser Reincarnation rosters before Hilda comes out. The week after that, we're supposed to see the return of the Sakura Wars crossover, with a banner featuring Sakura and Sumire, and a free 5-star Iris from the Secret Realm event. These characters aren't exactly meta anymore, with the exception of Iris, but she's the freebie anyway, but they'll have collector value for anyone who missed them the first time around, or for newer collectors who weren't playing when they were first released. Also an important thing to bear in mind, these upcoming banners are just predictions based on how things unfolded on the Chinese servers. It's a very reliable schedule, but things can get a little bit fuzzy when it comes to crossover events since we don't really know the status of their licensing agreements. We have had good luck with crossovers coming on schedule so far, so there's not really any reason to worry per se, but we'll have to see. All I mean is, I'm not guaranteeing that Sakura Wars is coming when it says it's going to. Hopefully it will. Really good chance that it will, but let's hold tight for that. Okay, so thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next Should You Summon.